war in Iran has delivered a huge windfall for a South American country, Guyana. Since the war, oil revenues have jumped from $370 million a week to $623 million a week. Guyana was once among the poorest countries in the world, but in 2015, 11 billion barrels of proven oil reserves were discovered off its coast. And just look at the impact it's had. Production started in 2019, and by 2025, oil had risen to become 3/4 of Guyana's GDP. GDP per person in Guyana is now higher than in neighboring countries, and the gap is widening. All this has been helped by the removal of Venezuela's dictator, Nicolás Maduro. For years, Venezuela has threatened to take over this large swathe of Guyana, covering vast rainforests and large oil and mineral deposits.
Presidente de Guyana, fuiste por lana y saliste trasquilado, compadre.
With Maduro gone, Guyana has felt more confident to expand its oil exploration. Politically, investors were concerned that the country could lurch to the hard right, but they were reassured in September 2025 when Guyana re-elected Irfan Ali, a centrist president.
Our country needs leadership you can rely on.
Guyana is at risk of the so-called resource curse. That's when a country's increasing commodity wealth is so sudden that it causes damage to the rest of the economy. And indeed, food and housing prices have jumped by 75% since 2021. Fossil fuel revenue in 2026 accounts for nearly half of the annual budget. This is a big dependency, and it increases the risk of waste, or even outright corruption. One flagship project, to bring natural gas ashore so that it can be burned to generate electricity, was set up in an area where people support the government, despite unstable ground conditions. It's years behind schedule, and 4 times over budget. For now though, Guyana's politicians do seem to understand the threat of the resource curse, and are trying to mitigate it. The government has spent eye-watering sums on roads, schools, and hospitals, but the IMF says the country has so far kept a rein on core inflation and the fiscal deficit. There have been calls for Guyana's sovereign wealth fund to save the Iran war windfall and to build it up like Norway and Qatar have done in the past.
What we have to do is to use some of this wealth and revenue now to build the sectors that will give the people opportunity.
To do that, it's going to have to resist strong temptations not to overdo public spending in the meantime.